The two best words in sports. Game 7 happens tonight. We got the Pistons. We got the Cavs. What an exciting opportunity here for the Pistons. Second consecutive playoff series that goes 7 games is taking place in Little Caesars Arena. And there's a couple really interesting storylines in this one. I think obviously the biggest one is going to be about Jalen Duren, right? Jalen Duren coming off of a pretty good, solid performance in Game 6. Probably his best performance by far in the playoffs with 15 and 11. He's going to really need to continue to step up. And the real question is, what kind of Jalen Duren are the Pistons going to get? Are the Pistons going to get Game 6 Jalen Duren? Or are the Pistons going to get Jalen Duren for typically how he has been throughout this playoffs? If the Pistons are able to get Game 6 Jalen Duren, I think that's obviously going to be a really great sign. I think it's something that you obviously need to kind of figure out pretty early, though. I think you're going to have to get him involved. I think defensively, he's going to have to be great. I think offensively, obviously, if he doesn't score a ton of points, I'm not asking him to score a ton of points, but if he can get offensive rebounds, if the Pistons can absolutely dominate the offensive and defensive glass, that's obviously going to be huge, especially in an atmosphere that's going to be very friendly. It's going to be a home atmosphere. It should be an absolutely packed arena. I think getting Jalen Duren going offensively and feeling confident is going to be absolutely massive. And even if he struggles early on, you have an opportunity off the bench and Paul Reed that you can put him in really early on. You really need to get off to a good start, really getting momentum and get the crowd going in Game 7. You can't really allow the Cavs to get off to a good start because, again, the Pistons have momentum going in this game coming off of a Game 6 win. So you really have to get Jalen Duren, or at least kind of figure out what kind of Jalen Duren you're going to get in this game. I know another really kind of key storyline in this one, though, is going to be who's going to start. Is it going to be Daniss Jenkins or is it going to be Duncan Robinson? I honestly think this is going to be a pretty easy decision, in my opinion. I know JB Bickerstaff obviously has that decision, but in my opinion, Daniss Jenkins should absolutely start. You really truly saw what this Pistons team was offensively and really kind of the spark that Duncan Robinson had off the bench in Game 6. The Pistons have really struggled shooting a three for the most part throughout the series, throughout the playoffs, throughout the season. And Daniss Jenkins, if he can hit shots early on, you really have kind of a spark off the bench in Duncan Robinson that has done a pretty good job of hitting threes, went 4 for 7 in game number 6. If he can do that off the bench with a guy like Karis LeVert, Marcus Sasser, I think absolutely deserves more playing time as well. His ability to come off the bench, hit shots, really have a big impact in the game. It's going to be absolutely massive. And then obviously, like I specifically mentioned, Paul Reed, you're obviously going to probably start Jalen Duren. If he plays like game 6, I don't care. I don't really mind him starting. But then you have Paul Reed and Beef Stew coming off the bench. And I really do think that is really one of the biggest advantages that this Pistons team has is the bench, because really outside of Merle and a couple other guys off the bench, the Cavs really don't scare me too much off the bench. I really think that the Pistons have the opportunity, really have the horses to really kind of put in guys in game number 6. Really the only guy that played over 32 minutes was Cade Cunningham. I obviously think that has a lot to do with the depth that the Pistons have, and obviously going back-to-back series going to game 7, you're obviously going to be a little concerned about where the legs are, where kind of the overall energy is, and I think the Pistons have done a really good job of, especially in game 6, of really not showing that. Obviously, because of that bench they've been able to, and I think that's going to continue to be hopefully an advantage that the Pistons use, and I think JB Bickerstaff in game 6 was a lot better with that, and I also think defensively as well, the Pistons are going to need to play physical, and that's something that JB Bickerstaff said in his press conference in game number 6, that they were allowed to kind of play their type of basketball, and with this being in a home game at Little Caesars Arena, you really kind of hope that the refs let them play a little bit more physical. Obviously, there's been a little bit of kind of pushback from Cavs fans, from Cavs reporters, about basically how like it allowed them to foul a little bit more, but didn't call fouls. I don't necessarily agree. I think you can play physical. I think you can play that type of basketball and not foul. And I think in game number 6 and hopefully in game number 7, they allow the Pistons to play that way. I think Asar Thompson is going to have to obviously still be a little worried about, still be a little careful about his foul issues. He did have a couple really bad fouls called against him in game 6, but defensively he's going to be absolutely massive. And I really do think in game number 7, you really need to prevent Donovan Mitchell from going off in this game, from really gaining any momentum, because obviously James Harden is going to flap. He's really going to try to draw fouls. You saw that in game 6. He's going to absolutely do that in game 7. If Donovan Mitchell is really kind of held to a pretty minimum and really can force turnovers for James Harden, which I think that absolutely will try to do, because that's been the best success that the Pistons have had. I think that obviously play into what the Pistons want to do and really hopefully lead to an opportunity for the Pistons to win. And really the last thing I want to talk about, and the one thing that I think for most people wouldn't necessarily surprise anyone, and really you kind of expect, is that Cade Cunningham is just going to have to be Cade Cunningham, right? Cade Cunningham, for the most part, has been absolutely impressive throughout these playoffs. He's been really good in must-game situations, and this is just going to be another one. You're going to have to get Cade Cunningham to hit shots early on. He's going to hopefully make that big play, and really, again, at the end of the day, you really need to get this crowd going, and I think the crowd's going to be an absolutely massive, massive part of this game. And the one thing with game number 5 that you end up losing it is that you kind of let the Cavs quiet the crowd. And even at that point, there were still quite a few Cavs fans in the crowd as well. I would expect that to be better, in my opinion, in game number 7. No one should be selling tickets at all to Cavs fans. It should be a very, very pro-friendly Pistons crowd, and it should be absolutely electric. It's another game 7. You have an opportunity here to go to the Eastern Conference Finals, which will be against the Knicks. You have an opportunity to do it, and you really need this team to step up. And this team has found out ways to win in must-game situations. They did it against the Orlando Magic. They won game 6. They went home, won game 7. This is an opportunity to do that. I think JB Bickerstaff will need to continue his way of coaching in game 6. I think the Pistons will have to continue to use the bench as an advantage and then get a guy like Tobias Harris going. I think Tobias Harris could be really the biggest quote-unquote difference maker in this one. Obviously, Jalen Duren is going to be massive. He has to play consistently. Tobias Harris has not been hitting shots. He has not been playing well. If you can get a Tobias Harris good performance, with a Jalen Duren good performance, with the Cade Cunningham good performance, with Duncan Robinson off the bench, with some good shooting, this is going to be a team that's going to be really tough to beat. And they just need to figure out a way to win game number 7. Obviously, the Cavs won game number 5. First win on the road in the playoffs. They need to prevent this from being the second. And if they can play defense, if they can play physical, if they can get Jalen Duren going offensively and defensively still be great, and have Asar Thompson not foul as much, that would be great. I think this is going to be a really fun game. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. And overall, it's going to be between the stars of these teams, Donovan Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, and what kind of support they get from the support players. I think if you're the Pistons, you're feeling confident, but again, you don't know what these Pistons are going to be game in, game out. I think Jalen Duren and Tobias Harris will absolutely be a massive part of what this team can be. If they're great defensively, if they can force the Cavs to score 100 or less points, I think they win this game. But let me know your thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts on this preview. Game number 7 happening tonight, 8 p.m. Absolutely massive, massive game. Let's see if the Pistons can pull it another Game 7 win off. And let's see if they can repeat 2006, which was the last time this exact situation happened between the Cavs and the Pistons.